AITA for rudely telling my mother-in-law the reason why I won't give my son my husband's last name. Hi. I'm a mother of a 6-year-old son. I've been with my husband for 3 years. His family is a big proud family of Leos and my husband is a Leo himself. They love my son as their own, but Mill repeatedly asks about the possibility of giving him the family's name as in change his last name which belongs my late husband's, then list the reasons why I should consider it. I gave no clear answers in hopes she'd drop it. My husband was working when me and my son visited his family last weekend. Mill asked again when I will finally give my son the family's name. I felt annoyed. I said I needed time to think about it to get her off my back, but Bill chimed in, saying I should feel honored and not even take time to think about it, because his family's name and reputation are well known among others. Mill said by not considering it, I'm creating distance between them and my son and preventing them from being a family under one name. I was mad. I said I wasn't going to do that anytime soon and will wait until my son's old enough to decide. I added that I didn't feel it's right to make this decision on my son's behalf no matter how much his stepfamily love him. He already has a father that gave him a respectful last name, and so this should be enough. Period. Bill and his cousin chuckled sarcastically. Mill and Sil said I was a hypocrite for expecting them to treat my son as their own and yet refuse to let them give him their last name. I responded that they're the ones letting a name dictate the kind of relationship they have with my son. I don't understand why it's so important to have my son have their last name. Like it's supposed to complete him or something. Mill still argued about it after I said this was between me and my husband and didn't stop, so I left during dinner, then got a text from Mill thanking me for rudely telling her that her family's name isn't good enough for me and my son. She said it's my decision to keep my son's last name but should no longer expect them to treat him as if they are his family after I made it abundantly clear that they are not. Mill emptied the room she had for when my son visits, and Sil sent her husband to get back the gifts she gave to my son and made up an excuse for it. I was hurt and consulted Mom, who said I should show my in-laws compliance if I wanted benefits for me and my son's future, since they have potentials and are well off. My son's current last name is useless at this point, according to her. My husband is conflicted. One minute he's saying his mom kind of has a point. The next he's on the phone yelling at her to stop it. But still thought being rude was not the way. Did I go too far? Was I AITA? Edit, just adding. Leo. S. Law enforcement officer. S. Mill. Mother-in-law. Sil. Sister-in-law. Bill. Brother-in-law. In case some of you got confused. I told my husband I won't be visiting anymore, although he said he could tell them to apologize and drop it, but I feel like this is too big for an apology to fix even if I seemed rude. So if your in-laws had a daughter and she got married and changed her surname, they would no longer consider her family? NTA. Your Mill is a piece of work, and I am appalled that your husband is not backing you up on this. You are absolutely right in that your son already has a father. It's wonderful that your husband loves him as his own, but the only person who gets to decide if your son changes his name is your son. And he is not old enough to make that decision yet. Are you serious? NTA, it's already his name and it's your late husband's last name. I think he want that to feel connected to his father, even though he won't really remember him. They are rude to press it and even suggest be honest. Your husband needs to defend you, or you need to cuss them all out. NTA. They are withholding love and affection from a 6-year-old for ransom. The assholes who are dripping with snobbery. You're right, it's your son's choice as to whether he wants to change it when he's old enough. Tell your ILs that it would mean more if your son decides to honor his stepfather's contribution to his life when he's older by taking his name. But it also doesn't negate the bond between them. Also, your husband shouldn't be toing and froing about whose side he's on. Their behavior toward a child is proof that their name isn't the honor they think it is, and if people found out, I doubt their reputation would be as highly thought of as they suggest. NTA, your in-laws are insulting you late husband and then taking it out on your son. Your husband should be defending you. If he doesn't, that's honestly disgusting to let you or your son be treated that way. NTA, fuck that whole family. It's a name. A last name. If they're willing to make such a fuss and pull gifts from a child because his last name doesn't match his father's, they're all sexist and old school. It's pathetic. ETA. I'm aware it's stepfather. But the way the family is acting comes across as he's not really the father, stepfather unless last name is same. Keep your son far away from these toxic people. They have made it clear by their actions that their love has a price and always will. If you give in on this, there will be something else they demand to keep that love in the future. Make it very clear to your husband that you will have absolutely nothing to do with any of these people again, and that you expect him to take the side of you and your son because that is his family. This is 10,000% your son's decision when he's old enough to make it. NTA. They are being beyond disrespectful. How would they feel if it was their son who was your late husband, and your second husband's family wanted to airbrush him out of history? Your husband needs to grow a backbone and push back on his nutty family. NTA. This all over a late father's last name. Your in-laws are bonkers und far too hung up on a stupid make. You're doing the right thing to let your son decide when he is old enough. This is crazy. I'm sorry you have to go through this crabby situation. Also ask her how she would feel if it was reversed, if her son passed and the mother had his son's name changed. I bet it wouldn't go over well. NTA. Do what I want you to do, or we will take it out on an innocent child and stop being a loving support system. F them. It doesn't matter if your husband adopted him or not. If you said no, then the answer is freaking no. Seeing that you now know their love is conditional, why the hell would you even want to change his name now? NTA. What kind of a family is this? They took away gifts because you want your kid to have his father's name and let him choose himself later? What a bunch of assholes who don't deserve your son. If I were you, I would never go back to their houses, and I would not have them at my house ever again. They can all go fuck themselves. NTA. I took my stepdad's last name because he was in my life from a very young age. But I made the decision myself. I think the compromise you should make is what you already mentioned. To allow your son to make the decision when he's at an appropriate age. That would be a tough one for Mill to argue, I believe. NTA. Your Mill is being rude not just to you, but to the poor kid who has done nothing wrong and has no say in the matter. Kudos to you for sticking your ground. It's not any of her business what your son's last name is. Your husband needs to have your back more. And your mother needs to get her priorities in line. Who cares what money and connections they have? If they act like they're better than everyone simply because of their last name. Woo-ah. NTA NTA NTA. All this nonsense over a last name? They went far enough to take back gifts for the kid? Stay the hell away from his family. I'd say, you did a good thing by giving your son the choice later on. NTA. I think you should keep your son's name as until he is old enough to decide whether he wants to change it or not. Keeping his last name as is could be a tribute, his primary connection to his late father. This is a touchy subject, so your husband's family are tough for pushing this on you so strongly. Honestly, with their audacity, I wouldn't want my son sharing a name with them. NTA. This is bizarre. And your mill does not have a point. Your son has a name and treating him like he's not part of the family because he doesn't share a last name with everyone else in the family is absolutely stupid and ridiculous. NTA. My husband and I eloped. When we told our families, my Phil refused to meet me until my husband had a private talk with him. My husband refused, so instead my Phil sent him a letter that said how disappointed he was that his son married someone who couldn't carry on the family name. I have 2 kids, 15 and 20, from my first marriage, and had my tubes tied. My husband was certain he didn't want kids, and we had talked about that a lot before we got married. Needless to say, after that, I refused to meet him. There's no way I'm putting my kids or myself in a position to feel like we're not good enough because we don't share this idiot's blood or name. It's been 4 years and I have no regrets. My mill, they're divorced, is an angel though, so I've got that going for me. My rambling point is, your son has been through enough and doesn't deserve to be made to feel like he isn't good enough. Just the way he is. Name be damned. The fact that they're all so happily willing to hurt a child to make their crappy point tells you all you need to know about these people. NTA. Your in-laws need to get over themselves. If they bully family like this, can't imagine how they treat non-family who don't automatically comply with their commands. The perception of their family name may not be quite as fabulous as they think it is. NTA. Your husband needs to be consistent. He either supports you or he doesn't. Personally, if my so acted like that, I would consider divorcing them. Not because your husband doesn't love you, but if you don't have any support from him, then you're always going to feel like you're in enemy territory. Eventually your son will feel it as well if he doesn't already.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. AmITheAsshole is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.